back to the Business Spotlight podcast here with Action Coach Northwest. I'm your host, Lauren, and today we have Chris of Colormatics here to chat all things business. So, hello, Chris. I always love to start this off by asking how your business began.
I started in New York City, actually. I was in New York and just in more of the feature film world and really wanted to make the choice to be home more, want to have a family. So really like the idea of doing big production, but in a shorter format and a more contained environment. And was doing some freelance work and then ended up getting a client out there from a friend of mine that turned into a very large client for us, a company called Fiverr. We did a very small video for them, but we were like, you know what, let's go all out and, pull out the stops. And they really liked it a lot. That and then just led into we've been working for them for almost 9 years now, doing a bunch of projects and stuff. But that's kind of how it started in New York. And, we were there for a couple of years and then kind of moved on from that.
What brought you to Spokane then?
My wife and I are originally from Spokane, and we got married young, moved away, went to Southern California, and then New York City for 10 years. And then we had 2 kids in New York and felt like it was time to get back, be around family and be close to them, and then see if we could set up a shop in the West Coast and have kind of East Coast, West Coast going on. And ended up working out pretty well.
That's so cool. Well, kind of thinking back to those early days, if you had to start from square one in business, what would you do differently?
I would definitely really understand what makes me unique and this like our kind of unique offering, like really dial that in even more. I think we kind of just went from project to project and kind of whatever clients kind of came our way. Wasn't super focused on new business development. We didn't really start doing that until, probably about 5 years ago. And that's really kind of what catapulted us into kind of a new realm, really focusing on, either if you're not good at that, finding people that can help kind of be a part of that business development, but also too, just really honing in the message and how you position yourself and what makes you really valuable to clients. Like what are you really trying to solve? And then, because when you start really, bidding against other people, it's like you really have to be sharp on that. And I think I was a little too loose on that in the beginning.
Well, kind of going into that, what have been your biggest learnings as an employer since you began in business?
I think biggest learnings are, a lot of it's staffing, making sure you hire the right people and the right people for the job for the future too, not just for that time period. And then, being really good at training those employees, investing a lot in them, and really, the employees are really what kind of drive all the business, and you have to really rely on them to grow. And then 2, people who aren't doing well, like to let them go quicker than we probably had in the past. I think some people we let stay around that kind of damaged a little bit of our staff and some of our culture. And we found out a little bit later after we let them go. So I think it's being really smart about that. And then, I think another lesson is just, I was reading this book, I can't remember the author of it, but a while ago, but it was talking about just sales and not bidding against yourself. And a lot of times you think in your head, like, I can only really do this kind of project, and something comes along, or like this kind of budget range, something comes along that seems bigger than that. It's easy to kind of undersell yourself and like kind of undersell your pricing and what you can deliver. And I think we had a moment where we had to break free from that. And I think that was a big catapulting moment for us of being like pitching something that was massive for us. And then we actually won it. And I think it just showed like, we get easily trapped in like our heads, and we need sometimes just to break through our own ceilings.
That's amazing. Really inspiring too. Well, kind of going off of all of that, what can be some common misconceptions about running a business, and how do you address them?
Common misconceptions are it's like you're just gonna have all this freedom, and you're in charge of your destiny and stuff like that, which is true to a point. But like, at the end of the day, it's for us, we're really beholden to our clients, and that means finding the right clients that we really like to be around and with, and we've taken on clients in the past that have been very difficult for us, and understanding why that is, and maybe we've been difficult for them too as well. So it's really finding like what is that ideal client mix, and that that makes this valuable, and you wanted to kind of run a business. And I think it's also too, like when I first started the company, I did a lot of the work. So we're a video agency, but we started as a video production company. I used to do director and direct photography and post-production and a lot of the design. And I think it's, as you grow, you want to kind of like expand the team, and that means handing that things off to other people. But I think it's really like, it's hard to separate those two out. And I think as I grow, I feel that tension. I feel like I'm stuck in the middle of like wanting to grow the company and be CEO and also do the work as well. And I think it's definitely it's a tension of, to grow the company. It's a constant, rethinking, reworking, finding new opportunities, figuring out what you're doing wrong that's keeping you from growing, what you're doing right that could help you grow. I think there's just a lot of nuance in owning and running a company. And then two, I think I think a lot of the stats out just about how so many companies fail. I think I just heard a stat recently that what was out of the millions of companies that start each year, I think about 1% of them stay afloat. And then out of that 1% of those make it to $1 million a year in revenue. And out of those $1 million revenue a year, 1% of those make it to $10 million a year in revenue. And so I think it's one of the things you just see how many people start something and can't finish it for a lot of reasons. And sometimes I think you got to learn from that and push through it. And in business, if it's not working, you got to cut your losses. And I think in America, we were always like, you got to push through and just keep on to the bitter end, which you see the stats, you're like, sometimes that's not a great idea, and if it is working, great, double down, keep on pushing forward. But sometimes you got to walk away too a little bit.
I like that. That's so cool. Well, it seems like you have really flourished. What do you attribute your growth to?
I think it's, a mixture of trying to do for each project. We have this thing called no project left behind, meaning it doesn't matter if it's a very tiny project or very small client, no matter what, we're going to put a lot of effort and make that amazing and super creative and done really well. It doesn't matter what size it is. But I think that really helped us in the beginning to grow our client base, grow kind of our level of work we're doing. I think we also did a good job talking about our work. We kind of reach this level of when you first start out in at least our world is you want to have a reel, you want to have all stuff to show, but then the next phase is you got to talk about it. You have to have a great story to tell that really captures people. And I think we did a good job with that. We did a good job with some of our early clients. We did a lot of work just on SEO and having the articles, and we got a lot of big companies and big brands and a lot of big business from people just searching online and finding us. And I think that was definitely pretty shocking. And then finding those connections around us that were able to connect the dots in ways that we could not. And one of our business development partners really brought on a couple of our key clients that really transformed our business. When those opportunities came, it's saying yes to those two and being like, okay, we're going to make it happen. And this is an amazing opportunity. We're going to do everything we can to dive in and make it happen. And I think too, sometimes you got to be willing to put in a lot of extra effort in the beginning to get the job. And sometimes it feels like it's too much, but it definitely has paid off for us.
Before this call, Chris was telling me he's dropping his daughter off. And so how do you balance your personal life with the demands of running a business?
Great question. Well, I'm in my car right now. My son's behind me because he had camp, but it's starting to rain. So his camp was outdoors. So he's hanging out with me today. I think part of it is I want to be there for my kids and I want to be there for my wife. And we're going on a trip tomorrow and I'm trying to get a lot of stuff done today. And so part of it is I'm waking up at 5 a.m, working before anybody gets up, and then, trying to find times that I can really focus on them and not be on my phone and be working the whole time. I really, when I was in New York, I kind of lived the COVID remote life for 10 years there, and I kind of got over that. Mm-hmm. So I'm not a big fan of working remote just because I did it for so long. And now I'm I'm in office. I just want to be in the office, and I want that separation of work and home. I like that separation. So when I come home, I try not to work. During the summertime, it's a little bit different because the kids are out of school with all the different camps and kind of, a lot of transportation and stuff, and just make sure you're there for them and a lot of trips. But I think it's definitely, I don't know, I feel like you kind of, with family and kids, you kind of reach a different level too. You're just constantly juggling and figuring out how to maximize things. And I think too, just finding a lot of each day trying to find a little personal space too, to kind of recenter, pray, reflect, whatever that might be, meditate or something, just to kind of get a little bit of you time to kind of get rebalanced, and then, hit the world, and then make sure you're exercising, all that kind of stuff too. So.
Oh, that's so important. Now, you mentioned you've got your team. What kind of qualities do you look for in employees, and how do you foster a positive and productive work environment?
I mean, for us, it's a big thing is it's not necessarily the pedigree or what school you went to. It's really the work that we see that you've done. And I think too, a lot of it's just a desire to really work hard and do something great. And, people actually that we've hired some people that have come from really big companies and agencies with great pedigree, and they didn't necessarily do that great. And people that maybe started as interns and really were eager to learn and, really learn our way of thinking and doing things have done really well and really flourished. But I think we're really looking for someone who is willing to learn, who can take input, who can give feedback. And for us, how we kind of foster that, a lot of it's, today we're actually doing a thing called employee dialogue, which is a chance for each of our employees to really walk through, like, here's the goals, here's the objectives, here's our SMART goals that we're working on, here's areas that we see we can improve on, and we've been doing really well. So make sure there's a lot of feedback in real time throughout the month, week, but also like setting up kind of strategic times where they can really learn and we can all grow. And then we're also, as leaders too, having that same feedback. We want to make sure that we're getting feedback too, because it's easy to be in a vacuum and just think you're doing a great job and your employees aren't, loving life. So, a lot of it's like try to be very intentional with having lunches and times with our employees to really kind of hear how they're doing, how they're feeling, how I'm doing, things that I can improve upon. I think it's trying to develop a culture that we can all spur each other on and help each other be accountable. And then too, like just, we're in the creative industry. So how do we keep on spurring each other on to be creative in our jobs and in our products that we're doing? And I think it's, it's that same kind of model of like, let's make sure we all give input and there's no egos at the table. I think, putting the ego aside is a big deal. And I think even recently we found out a lot of our clients like us is because we're so collaborative. You get around a lot of bigger agencies and there's a lot of like, this is the way, I'm an expert in this, you have to follow this. And sometimes that works, but like for our approach, we're very much like, let's collaborate together. Let's do this. I think collaboration makes it, much more better end result, more powerful outcome. And I think that comes when you put your ego aside, say, hey, I'm open to pushback, feedback, and I'm not going to get upset about it. And I'm going to really take this and run with it and learn from it. So
that's amazing. It's so important in the creative field too. It can get very exhausting. Sometimes I've been doing social media for a while and it's hard to figure out, okay, how do I keep going? But it's important to have that community too. So that's really awesome. All right, looking to the future, this is one of my favorite questions. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, and any words of advice for other business owners who are looking to grow their business?
For us, we're definitely diving into the AI space, make sure that like there are a lot of cool products out there that really align with our ethos of being very cost effective, very quick and adapting, nimble and super creative. And I think those things are really key. And so we're really using a lot of tools for that. We're actually starting today, actually. We just brought on a new staff member whose sole focus is AI. Oh, so helping us bring in AI in every part of things we do, also developing AI products. We have a lot of ideas for things in our space that would be useful for us and for other companies. So I think, really it's, honing that craft and make sure we're on the forefront of the AI, because AI is changing and transforming everything so quickly. And we want to be, leaders in the space. And then I think too, just, super hyper focused on business development and growth and making sure that we really keep our eye on the ball. It's easy with we have about 15 people on staff. So it's easy to, when we get a big project, big client, that we kind of take the foot off the gas for business development and growth. And then when the client, if they don't renew or they leave, then they're also like, oh, I need to start, growing the company again. I think it's keeping that cadence as we're getting busier and busier and like always pushing forward on that growth and, keeping the culture in check and just growing that together.
I love that. And then my final question for you is, what question should I be asking you that I haven't?
Oh, that's a great question. I guess the question is probably, where do you see business in the next 5-10 years anyways, with AI and everything? Mm-hmm. I think that's, for us, it's, AI is just like the topic that's on, our top of our minds right now. And even I spent with a couple of CMOs for pretty large companies last week in LA, and, it's on, they're wrestling with that too as well. They're dabbling and trying to do things themselves. And like, you have a CMO of a pretty large company trying to do things on their own, which that typically never has happened really, and I think it's seeing this world is changing super quick, and, how do you keep on adapting and growing and making sure that you are super valuable in the future? And what's your moat, around your company that makes you unique and that makes you, makes you kind of unstoppable.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for your time. And to our followers, make sure to check out Colormatics below and come back for more of our business spotlights.